Welcome to Public Health Matters, where we talk about matters of public health. I'm Bobby Bagley, Chief Public Health Official and Director for the City of Nashua's Division of Public Health and Community Service. And I'm joined here today with Wendy LeBlanc and Scott Wellman, who are part of our Greater Nashua Continuum of Care. Wendy is the chair and Scott is the co-chair. And we're going to talk about issues related to housing, our plan, and what our organizations are working on together. Wendy, I'm going to have you start first. Tell us about your role at your job and lead us into a little bit about the responsibilities that you have as the chair of the Greater Nashua Continuum of Care.
Sure. Thanks, Bobby. Thanks for having me here today. So my name is Wendy LeBlanc. I'm the Director of HIV Services at Harbor Care. Harbor Care is a large organization with multiple programs focusing on housing and health care. We have a federally qualified health care for the homeless program, clinic located at 45 High Street in Nashua, and we have housing programs for vulnerable folks, those living with mental illness, substance use disorder, and homeless veterans all throughout the state of New Hampshire. My role is to oversee our housing programs and other support services for low-income people living with HIV. One of these programs, which comes from HUD, called HOPWA, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, is actually overseen by the city, and that relationship took place, and that grant was awarded to us because of a relationship we developed at the Greater Nashua Continuum of Care with city staff and Harbor Care staff working together to find solutions to end homelessness. Now, Harbor Care, also known as Harbor Homes, is the grantee from HUD for Continuum of Care funds. And so we're the collaborative applicant, and it's our job to oversee the process of the Greater Nashua Continuum of Care. And we can talk a little bit more about that after we meet Scott.
Yeah, so Scott, tell us a little bit about your role at your job.
Okay. My name is Scott Wellman. I'm the Director of Housing and Vocational Services at Greater Nashua Mental Health. And Greater Nashua Mental Health is a mental health center that has a full scope of services from children's services, adult and elder services, and it includes substance use disorders, and we have court programs as well for those people that are struggling with mental health issues and have difficulties with criminal issues and encounters with the law. So we have a full service of opportunities and programs at the Mental Health Center. My job is, as I said, I'm the Director of Housing and Vocational Services. We do have a supported employment program, and we try to help people get involved and have a fuller life by becoming employed and having those opportunities. As housing, I oversee a number of programs that we have that are voucher-based type programs or programs that are that allow for shared living in the community for those people that are struggling, that are coming out of the hospital, don't have a safe place to go, and we have some opportunities for them to have some shared living, get some time to find that independent, that you know, their steady housing, their permanent housing that they're looking for. As the vice chair of the COC, I'm really just a support to Wendy and just try to understand the complexities of the COC, yeah. and it is a very complex thing, but it's such a needed and necessary part of our community.
It is, and I want to thank both of you, Wendy and Scott, for being here today to talk about this very, very important issue. And it's actually really good that we have the Greater Nashua Continuum of Care that will provide some of the guidelines, some of the strategies for how we address the issue of homelessness within our city. As you know, at Public Health, we look at housing as a component of health. Housing is health. If you don't have stable housing, there's so many things that you're not able to sustain or maintain. Your sobriety, if you're having issues with substance use disorder. Being able to stay on your medication regime if you're living with HIV. And so the HOPWA program was ideal, and that was set up. And Wendy, if you could give us a little bit of back history as far as how far that goes back, because I remember Hopewell for quite a while now.
Yeah, so actually 2 weeks from now is my 25th anniversary working, being employed by what used to be called the Southern New Hampshire HIV/AIDS Task Force, which is now merged with Harbor Care. And our organization provides case management support to approximately 200 low-income individuals living with HIV/AIDS in Southern New Hampshire. And as part of our services, we have this HOPWA grant, Housing Opportunities for People with AIDS. And what that allows, it has multiple components, but the primary component is that it does provide long-term permanent supportive housing to low-income people with HIV. So that's like a Section 8 voucher, a subsidy that they only pay a portion of their income. So that's sustainable, that's long-term, and it comes with the support services of a case manager to help make sure that they have a doctor, they have insurance or a method to pay for their health care and their prescriptions, transportation to their appointments, and a way to get to the pharmacy. Understanding the importance of taking their HIV meds at the same time every day to stay healthy and to keep the community healthy by not spreading the disease, because we now know that people who are undetectable are untransmittable, so they can no longer spread the virus. So that's a big part of the work we do, is helping our clients retain their viral suppression. The housing support, we all need affordable housing, right? And we know nowadays that even if somebody is working a full-time job, certainly not at minimum wage, but even at a reasonable rate of pay, it's not enough to afford an apartment in our community. So these vouchers give folks an opportunity to live full, healthy, productive lives without having to worry about the roof that's over their head.
Right. And it's really hard to maintain any type of continuity of care or stability if you have to worry about where you're going to lay your head at night.
Absolutely.
Where are you going to, and even if you have a job, where am I going to get dressed in the morning, right? And so we know the significance of housing is so important. And so the role of the continuum of care, and we want to get to really spending quite a bit of time so that our audience understands what the Greater Nashua Continuum of Care is, what its role is, who are the partners, how often we meet. So let's talk about that, and then your role in coordinating those efforts around the responsibilities of the continuum of care.
Sure. So maybe I can talk about the process. Scott can maybe talk about the agencies that are involved and the folks that attend. So the federal government, Housing and Urban Development, HUD, created this program in the early 90s where they basically mandated that every community in the country work together to plan based on their unique needs in their community. Every year, as a group, we submit an application to the federal government, to HUD, for money to come into our community to support the needs of people experiencing homelessness. The bulk of the funding that comes in currently through our COC application is for permanent supportive housing. Those are those long-term vouchers. Regardless of how much money somebody earns, they have safe, affordable housing, and those are targeted for chronically homeless individuals.
So define what chronically homeless means.
So HUD actually has created this definition. A person who is chronically homeless, number one, has a disabling condition, and number two, has been literally homeless, not doubled up on somebody's couch, not, literally homeless in their car, under a bridge, literally homeless for a year of 12 months, or has had 4 episodes of homelessness over 3 years that equal 12 months. Okay. So these are the really vulnerable folks that just don't have the support and will never have the capacity to earn enough money to pay their own rent.
Okay, all right. And Scott, can you tell us a little bit about some of the partnering agencies that participate on the continuum of care? Because when I've gone into those rooms as an agency that participates, it's getting almost to be standing room only.
Yeah, it is. And it's great that we have the participation of so many agencies throughout the community. And it's been great to have an even stronger relationship with the city that has come about in the last year or so, because this is such a problem throughout our community and throughout the area that surrounds Nashua. We have, of course, Greater Nashua Mental Health, Harbor Care. We have Family Promise, Front Door Agency, Stepping Stones,
Marguerite's
Place, and then we also have representatives from the city, from City Welfare, United Way, Gateways, the hospitals themselves here in town.
School district.
School district, yeah. We have there. It's anyone you can think of has been a part of this because homelessness does. They see it in all of these areas, and we work together and collaborate together to try and establish some form of. So we're not all doing the same thing. We're doing things to kind of that are going to benefit everyone and provide the services that are really needed. So we have people that are on our executive committee, and then we have a general meeting that occurs once a month, the first Wednesday of every month at 9 o'clock at City Hall, and that's open to anyone in the community to come and join us and be a part of that, to understand and be a part of giving some insights to us, people with lived experience. So they're really important to be a part of this so we can understand their needs and the needs of the community, not just from our perception, but also from theirs.
Right, yeah.
And I think that the COC's mission and value is sort of twofold. One is we bring in a little over $2 million a year into our community.
We just saw that
was
in the news. It made national news.
Yep. So we actually scored really well this year on our application, and we bring in over $2 million a year to provide these housing programs for our most vulnerable community members. That's a big piece of what we do, and that's what HUD has us structure things around. But what really happens is what Scott's talking about, this networking in these meetings, and all of us talking together to share resources, to share ideas, and to come up with solutions. We're in the process of working towards developing a new strategic plan, which we hope to roll out sometime this year, to really document what are the real needs of our community. We try to do everything in a data-driven way. So fortunately, or unfortunately, I suppose, if you're the one doing all the data entry, we have a very robust homeless management information system in our state that allows us to track who's chronically homeless, who's homeless, how long have they been homeless, so that we can work to improve the services and create shorter times that people are homeless, and that there are more people that are earning a job before they leave a program, or getting a job and earning their own income. So there's all these different metrics that we also follow to make sure that we're doing the best job that we can.
Yeah, and we just came off of completing our annual point-in-time count. And this year, at the end of January, we did that, and what we actually saw was an increase in the number in comparison to last year. And so at the last count that I was made aware of, we totaled 153 individuals between those that are unhoused, living outside, either in tents or rough sleepers, sleeping out on the sidewalks in front of places like St. Patrick's Church and other places. I've actually seen people on the steps of City Hall as well. Not so much in the winter, but during the summer, I actually would come across folks that were on the front steps. Cement, rough sleepers. And then the number also included those who were in shelters, like at the Mission, at the Hope, and at our Nashua Soup Kitchen and Shelter as well. And so that number is up significantly compared to what we counted last year. And it may be because I do believe last year we had about 30 individuals go out. So we had close to that same number. But I really do think that there's been an increase in the number of individuals that we are seeing that are unhoused, whether they're termed as chronic homeless or not. And the face of those individuals is starting to look very different. So can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Well, I think that one of the things, just to get to the point about the rise, I think part of that is that we don't have as much housing available, and so that's going to cause, because some of the people that may have been couch surfing, let's say, they don't have those opportunities because those people are unhoused now, and I think that causes the increase in all of this. But I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
The face is looking very different.
Oh yeah,
so the population of folks. Yeah. So we've been able to address the homeless vets when we put when Harbor Care put the program in place to address the homeless veterans. So we've gotten that down to probably like zilch, right?
And people with HIV also.
Exactly, right. So those two groups of vulnerable populations are being covered. And now we're starting to see, just from some of the, even the outreach act that I've done, in the community with our community health workers, those unaccompanied minors or youth, we're starting to see an increase in that. We're starting to see an increase in our elder population. So those over the age of 60, living in their cars, living in RVs, or rough sleepers on the sidewalk. So we're starting to see the demographic change right here in Nashua, and I'm also hearing about in our region as well.
I think there's a lot of people. I guess from my experience in history, is it's not unusual to see people in their 30s and 40s that become homeless because of any number of reasons. But it's, to your point, a lot more younger people that are just leaving home, just out of school, out of high school, and cannot get started because it's too expensive to do that on your own, and then to find somebody to live with. All those types of things make things more complicated. And then the elders, they're renting, and the rents are increasing, and not able to keep up, and so they're on a fixed income, and so they're not able to maintain, and so they become homeless.
Right.
It's a great segue to talk about our new youth homeless demonstration project. So the COC, the Greater Nashua COC this year finally received an award to provide new services and new housing for youth ages 18 to 24 experiencing homelessness. And so right now we're in the planning phases of this, and by sometime this summer, a request for proposals will be going out into the community for anyone who serves youth that might like to take advantage of these funds to provide potentially transitional housing, rapid rehousing, maybe some support services. The planning committee is still trying to determine what are the most needed services with the money that we're going to receive. So there's a huge planning process going on right now that also includes the Youth Action Board called HEAL in our community, and they are also looking for new members. So if any of the viewers know any homeless youth, individuals 18 to 24 in our community that are experiencing homelessness, we'd really love their input into this process and hear from those people with lived experience what they think they need, and that will help us do the best that we can to plan.
Right. Now, Wendy, you mentioned the HOPWA program.
Yes.
Which has had a great deal of success.
Yes.
With people being able to stay employed, stay housed, and stay on their medication.
Yes.
And their health is sustained as well.
Yes.
I really like that model.
Me too.
So when I participate on the Continuum of Care, and when I hear about, we're getting ready to start working on a strategic plan. So as we think about this strategic plan and different models, and you're sitting right there in the front seat, Wendy, running the HOPWA program, what are your thoughts of strategically thinking about how we do this for other populations as well?
Well, I have to say, which may not be the best answer to your question, that even with Housing First, we are often unsuccessful. So Housing First means giving somebody a housing voucher with no conditions of sobriety, treatment for mental illness, any of that. But unfortunately, there are still program rules and rules that the landlord or the lease has, and people who are actively engaged in their substance use disorder often struggle to follow the rules.
Right.
And their case manager can knock on their door every day and say, hey, don't you think it's time to get into a program? Doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Right.
So, and I'm struggling with that now. We have an opening, and then we have folks that we know are active in their addiction, and is that the good use of money to put somebody into an apartment that is probably not going to be a successful tenant, even with all of these supports? So I don't really have all the answers.
Right.
I just know that right now in Nashua, in the Greater Nashua area, as Scott alluded to, vacancy rates are very low. Even people who have vouchers, meaning they go to their landlord and say, I have an agency that's going to help me pay my rent. So you're guaranteed to get this much money every month, and I'm going to pay a little bit, but they're going to pay the bulk of it. We still can't find apartments. There aren't enough apartments available, because it also has to be a reasonable rent amount as well.
Right.
And the landlords can charge higher rents because some people can afford them.
Right.
So I think one of our big challenges right now is having apartments available at reasonable rents so that people who have these vouchers can find a place, because that's becoming a big barrier as well.
We have a number of people on in some of our programs that have a voucher but we have no place to put them.
Yes.
You know, we really try to assess people. We have all of the things to give them the support that they need, the case management, advocacy, everything that we can to maintain people in housing. But there are some people that struggle with that because there is free will, and,
Yes.
and sometimes they're not willing to get engaged as they should, or that may be the best for them. So we have to do our best to really navigate that and help people out and look for those people that we think can be successful, and certainly give them those opportunities.
Right.
As somebody goes in, if they fail, it's a real letdown. And then, but we also have to think about our relationships with landlords.
Right.
That type of thing. If there's a failure, and depending on what's happened that's caused that for somebody to be evicted, then a landlord isn't going to be that willing to
Exactly.
engage with us again. And so it is something that we really have to play with to make it
it's
work.
one of these things where it's going to take the whole village, right?
Yes.
That old African proverb,
Yes.
right? It's going to take the whole village. It's going to take establishing some relationships with some landlords. And so what are some of the plans around engaging landlords?
When we started the program, we had lots of landlords that were really happy to work with us. And then as time goes on and we
Right.
refer clients to them who maybe aren't as successful as tenants and have a lot of neighbor complaints or create a lot of damage in the apartment, then those landlords aren't going to want to work with us
Right.
because they put us all in one lump sum. Like if one client from that agency didn't do well, then we don't want to take a chance on any of those others. But I think, again, in the world of HIV, New Hampshire is a very low prevalence and low incidence state for HIV, meaning that each person living with HIV gets more individualized, personalized services than in larger cities where case managers have much larger caseloads. And so for clients who want to be successful and we can help. We have all the resources available to help somebody reach success, but we can't do it for them.
Correct.
They still
Correct.
have to make their own choices and
Right.
choose to follow the rules and so on.
Yeah. So the continuum of care is going to have a big job.
Yes, the Continuum of Care has always had a big job.
Yeah.
And like I said, right now, most of our money that we get from HUD is in permanent supportive housing. Harbor Homes oversees the bulk of that. Every year there's a competition and there's new money available each year. It's difficult money to accept as a small agency because HUD expects a match, meaning that the agency has to fundraise the same amount that they get as a grant, which can be very difficult for millions of dollars worth of grants. And so some smaller agencies sometimes struggle with that piece. But we very much want other agencies to be receiving this funding and doing this work with us. So when the annual application will come out again, we never know when, but it'll probably be in the summer. And we do put an announcement out that there are new funds available and encourage anybody to apply, and we provide technical assistance to help them apply. But ultimately, I think the best word to share with the viewers today is that if this is a topic that's of interest to you, come to our monthly meetings. We have a variety of subcommittees that also work. The main meeting, as Scott said, is at 9 a.m. the first Wednesday of the month, except for July. And we meet in City Hall on the third floor auditorium. There's usually 40 to 60 people there. And we talk about all the work that the subcommittees are doing so people can hear the nitty-gritty details of what everybody's working on. And then we also have presentations from different organizations sharing resources that might be helpful to the clients that each of us are serving. And it's a great way. As I mentioned, we have this HOPWA grant because when we found out the money was available from HUD and learned it had to be applied for from a city, our agency couldn't apply. We needed the city to do it. And because of the relationships we'd built through the COC, I could say to the city, please do this with us.
Right.
And you know me, and I'll do a good job for you. And it's been great. And it's been in place for 25 years now. And almost every year for the past over a decade, we've not had any unsheltered homeless people living with HIV on our annual point in time count. So
Right.
this is a success. It is a successful program for
Right.
this small population.
It is. It is. So talk a little bit more about the committees, because we really want to encourage folks from the community, because the issue is so important. Because we do get calls at the health department, at the mayor's office. You're getting calls, Scott, you're probably getting calls too about the growing number of individuals that are experiencing homelessness in the community. And the community wants to know, what are you all doing to address this issue? So talk a little bit about the committees before we kind of wrap up.
So I'd like to mention the Coordinated Entry Subcommittee, and this is again something good for your viewers to know. If you're aware of anybody that needs services, homelessness or other services, they can call 211, which is a statewide number, and they will give resources to this person, and they will contact, for example, the shelters throughout the state to see if there are openings. They'll enter them into that homeless management information system so they can get in the system, in the database, which is where Harbor Care pulls from when there's a new opening in the program. We go to that data system and pull that. So the Coordinated Entry Committee is figuring out the best way for people to enter the system so that they're in that data set so that they can start to receive services. Do you want to talk about some of the others?
We have the Employment Committee, and that's really to focus on the opportunities that occur throughout the city, and to give that support to those people that want to become employed. We have the
Outreach Committee, which you're the chairperson of, Bobby,
right,
at this time.
The Outreach Committee has representation from our organizations, from Harbor Care, from Greater Nashua Mental Health, from the Health Department. They go out into the community to actually engage with individuals that are experiencing homelessness, to get more information about what their needs are. And then they work with those individuals to connect them to those organizations, to the Nashua Soup Kitchen and Shelter, to the mission, to getting them their IDs. So they do a lot of that sort of like soft handoff work to help position people so that when they're ready, because again, as you've said, Wendy, people have to be willing to do some work on their end as well when they're ready to move into either going into treatment or doing more to access housing, then they could do that. So at that committee meeting, we all come together and we talk about what's happening, what we're seeing, and then trying to address some of the problems that the community brings to us as well.
And we have the Youth Committee. We also have the Health Services Committee that really addresses the needs of those people that are coming out of the hospital and don't have safe housing to go to.
And we also have a newly formed data committee where we're reviewing the data that comes out of the Homeless Management Information System. Again, part of our application annually to HUD is based on these system performance measures. How many days are people staying homeless? How long are they staying in programs? Things like that. So this data committee can help the entire community understand where our shortcomings are, and that will help us in building our strategic plan as well.
Yes.
There's a place for everybody to come and be
involved.
Yes.
And to understand the problems that we're experiencing and how we can try to get on top of this and make a difference, make a change.
And there's also a Veterans Subcommittee as well that's part of the statewide Veterans Homelessness Subcommittee. So there's a lot of work being done at these little committees, but if people come to the main meeting, we'll do our best to help you understand what our strategy is, what our work is, what we're doing, and how you can be involved.
That's awesome. And I do appreciate, again, Wendy and Scott, you guys taking the time to come out today to share information about the Greater Nashua Continuum of Care, the purpose, the mission, what our vision is in addressing homelessness in the city and in the Greater Nashua region. There is the Greater Nashua Continuum of Care, and then there's the bigger
balance of
state.
And there's a Manchester Continuum of Care. So there are 3 in the state of New Hampshire.
Right. And everyone is addressing and focusing on how we tackle this issue of homelessness across the state of New Hampshire, because it has become a very pertinent issue. It's on our priority list all across the state. Housing is health, and in order for people to be successful in maintaining their health and well-being, they need to have housing. And I really appreciate you being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you. So I'm Bobby Bagley, reminding you to have a great day today and a better day tomorrow. And I'll see you next time on Public Health Matters.